Hello! Welcome to Jessi's Craft Corner. Today you are watching the third and final installment of my custom throne room Queen Amidala makeover. Let's get started. Right now I'm casting the Sein Jewels. The first thing that you have to do is fill up the back with hot glue to attach it to a smooth piece of plastic so we can use it to make a mold. Next step, I am using some petroleum jelly to coat the gem, which will prevent the hot glue from sticking to it when I make the mold. Ooh, cat hair! When you are doing this, you don't have to worry about getting the Vaseline smooth because the heat will make it melt and give you a smooth mold anyway. Make sure you are using a high temperature glue gun because if you do not, the glue won't stay liquid long enough for you to get a seamless mold. The best way to do this is to pump straight onto the center of your object and keep pumping until it is covered because you are less likely to get air bubbles and mold lines. If you want to accelerate the cooling process of your mold, chuck it in the freezer for a couple of minutes, and once it hardens, pop out the gem and give it a good wash with soap and water. I made the casts with UV gel, which I have never used before. I went through quite a bit of trial and error to figure out how I wanted to make them, as you can see from my pile of failed attempts. I originally tried to make them hollow, but found out that solid worked better. Oh well, live and learn. Here are the 6 gems which I cast using my mold, with the backs filed down smooth. I've drilled holes in the back of each that are the right size for the lights to fit in. I did test the lights to make sure that they worked, and now I'm on to finishing. So this is kind of stupid, but I painted a piece of tagboard yellow and glued the gems to it. If I did this again, I would have just painted the back of the gems themselves and then covered it with UV gel polish to protect it. Next I hit each of the gems with a red translucent polish and cured them again. Add the black bottoms, coat it with another layer of UV gel, and cure again. Are you seeing a theme here? Alright, so I cut out the first one and trimmed around the edge, and also cut a hole in the back for the light. And then I did it 5 more times. Once again, if I had just thought of what I said a minute ago, I wouldn't have had to do this step at all. Okay, so I glued these onto a piece of pleather to sew them to the dress, and once again cut out the hole for the light. I went ahead and cut out and stitched the edges of the holes in the dress for the gems to sit in. Looking back, I could have saved myself a whole lot of hassle and work if I had just E6000'd the gems to the dress in the first place. Oh well. Now for the fun part, adding in the lights. Each one is held in place with a few whip stitches. Make sure you are only sewing the lights to the dress lining so that your stitches aren't visible on the outside of the dress. And testing? Yay! Onto the crown. This is the original headpiece that came with the doll. You can see it's got this tacky looking gem in the center and the proportions are way off. This is the one that I've trimmed down to make it more screen accurate. Here's a side-by-side comparison so you can see the difference in the profile. Time to paint. I am starting off with white because if you look at the crown from the film, there appears to be some sort of white enamel covering the majority of the crown. I used several coats of Delta Cream Coat Select multi-surface metallic acrylic paint in a white pearl color, number 04100. I then use a Folk Art metallic silver sterling, looks like it's number 662. Sorry I didn't have a picture of it on the screen. I think the paint I have is actually probably older than I am. This might have belonged to my mother when she was in high school. But anyways, I use that to paint all of the gridded sections on the crown. I'm dry brushing it on to keep the white enamel visible. Next up, I'm using a Folk Art metallic pure gold number 660 for all of the remaining textured areas. I got the idea while I was painting to dot on a couple different colors of gold to re-texture the areas that I had had to trim down the silver. So every time a toothpick makes an appearance, it's just me experimenting with the idea. I decided to paint the smooth sections of the crown a little darker to make them stand out, and use the Folk Art metallic chocolate brown number 2570. Then it was back to pure gold to blend in my dotting a bit. And the toothpick makes a reappearance as I decided to paint all of the tiny details on the knob thing on the top of the crown. Honestly, I am shocked that my head never made an appearance in the camera shot while I was filming this. Ah, never mind, there it is. So this is the Psycho. This is the tiniest paintbrush that I have been able to find to date. Even so, I could not keep my hand steady enough to paint the tiny little lace details on the crown, so I ended up resorting to dotting instead. Not perfect, but I think it turned out looking good. I decided to give my hands a little break and glue in the Swarovski crystal. I'm holding it up to the camera so you can see the visual difference between it and the original gem, if you can call it that. Back to the hand cramping details. The reason the other crown is in the shot is because I was using it as a reference, having already verified that the lace pattern on it was correct. And now for a comparison. There's the original and this is the custom. That's all for the crown. Time to go back to the dress. These are the middle sleeves, since seriously, this dress has 3 sets of sleeves in it. I mean, that is way more than anybody needs, but I guess that's what fashion dictates in a galaxy far, far away. So the reason this looks so long is because I will be folding the sleeve in half. As a precursor to that, I am whip stitching down the seam allowance to help it lie flat. And stitching the top shut so there aren't any frays. The ribbon is attached to the top so I can stitch it into the neckline to cut down bulk at the shoulder seams on the dress. So while the dress will have 3 sleeves at the bottom of the wrist, there is only 1 at the top of the shoulder. Last step on the sleeves, sew on a fur/velvet cuff. Onto the inner sleeves. These are just made of vinyl and stitched up the bottom side. This is actually the last step, so it's time to put it all together. I'm starting with the collar first because it would be impossible to get it over the dress afterwards, and I don't want to risk messing up the hair of the doll. You can see how the middle sleeves are stitched onto the shoulders by the ribbons. I'm struggling to get the dress on here because the fingers kept getting caught on the hems. Honestly, sometimes I even have this problem with regular doll clothes, so yeah. Now I'm stitching the main dress closed up the back from bottom to top so that the knot will be hidden under the collar. On the collar, I'm stitching it from the top to the bottom so that I can tuck the end knot into the weird hood thing, whatever it is, that's on the back of her dress. And the final touch, every queen needs a crown. I'm using straight pins because the actual piece doesn't come with any way to attach it to her head. It was just kind of rubber banded on, and given that I got this in the original unopened package, that is kind of weird, but whatever, Hasbro. I did end up adding a 3rd pin to the top center to keep it from wobbling, and then glued on the hairpiece, and she's done. Time for the finished reveal. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this project come together. It's been a long process for me and I've really enjoyed working on it. Please like, share, and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.